The United States is being overwhelmed by a wave of migrants arriving at its border with Mexico. Most of them are either young mothers with infants or children on their own who've travelled north from Guatemala, El Salvador and Honduras, fleeing violence and poverty. Many of them arrive in Hidalgo County on Texas's southern border, but they don't come to the official ports of entry because they don't have visas and would be turned away. Instead, they're entering illegally on parkland and farms. That's Mexico on the other side of the river. And the sandbank you can see is where the Mexican chapter of the journey ends for some migrants. They walk down to the water where they find a smuggler who's got an inflatable. They get in the boat and the smuggler will actually push them across the river. It's not that deep, so he can walk. And when they get to the other side, they're here in America. But once they're here, their ambition is not to evade the law enforcement authorities. It's quite the opposite. They want to turn themselves in to the Border Patrol. The bedraggled migrants know the border officers as La Migra. The border officers call them OTMs, other than Mexicans, because they enjoy more legal protection than people from Mexico. Once the officers find them, they bring them to the Border Patrol station in McAllen to be processed. That should take as little as 6 hours, but because of a backlog, it can take over a week. There are no showers or beds inside, so people are sleeping on the floor. Eventually, the migrants get a date for a court hearing, where an immigration judge will decide whether they have a case to stay in the US. While they're waiting, the unaccompanied children are sent to care facilities elsewhere. But there's nowhere for the mothers with infants to stay, so they get released and dropped off at the bus station in McAllen. I just spoke to one mother who travelled up from Honduras. The journey took 15 days. She was travelling with her 3-year-old son. She was also 7 months pregnant. Now, the only thing she had in her hand was a brown envelope marked with the time of her bus, the 3:45 to Houston, followed by a connection to Florida. And in the envelope was her order of release on recognizance with her court date, the end of this month, in Miami, where her husband lives. This is where local Catholic charities step in. Before the migrants catch their buses, they bring them to a relief centre in a nearby church car park.
Some have seen some horrendous conditions along the way, including others being killed or raped or hurt. So they've become very traumatized by the time that we receive them here. They're very, very tired.
They're fed chicken soup, allowed to shower, and given fresh clothes. They're also warned that if they show up at their immigration hearings, and some of them won't, they could still be deported.
Believe it or not, we don't give people credit for information that they already know. You know, many of these families know that already. They come here knowing that, and they come here taking that risk, again, because they are escaping the violence and the unrest that they have in their own communities. So they're willing to take that chance.